Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is OU Football Update, brought to you by Bronze.
Hi, everybody. Toby back with you. Welcome to another Oklahoma's own sports pod. It's OU Texas preview, and this is a lot of fun because I'm welcoming in today a friend of mine for many years. Yes, we are on opposite sides of the Red River, but we have managed to get along for a decade and a half. The voice of the Longhorns, the great Craig Way.
It's
Hi,
great
Craig.
to visit. You know, I say the same thing that you say, T-Row. You know, a lot of folks say, you really have a friend that's on that side of it. I'm like, I got several friends up there, and you're one of the best. So I always enjoy visiting with you.
We got to work together, so it's pretty easy. And as always, we if you are enjoying our 3 times a week OU podcast, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Craig, how many OU Texas games will
this will be my 35th. It'll be my 25th in, I guess, or 24th in the play-by-play chair, and 11 as the analyst. So it never gets old, as you know. It's always something special.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Texas comes in 3-2, preseason ranked number 1. In your mind, what has the story of the season been so far for the Longhorns?
I think it's probably been what a lot of folks would say is unrecognized possibilities, and they've had some unrealized possibilities because certainly the talent that they have. They have an outstanding coaching staff. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian came into the season having gone 25-5 over the last 2 years and into the semifinals of the college football playoff each of the last 2 years. But there were questions, and I think Sark talked about them, and the players openly discussed them. They knew there were questions going into the season, most notably on the offensive front. Only one returning offensive starter there on the offensive line, so they've had a mixture of young guys and transfer, and it has yet to take full root. There are times when you see it really work well and all in sync, and then times when it doesn't do it. And it doesn't matter to the opponent, because they had moments against Ohio State where they drove the ball very well down the field and scored their 1 touchdown. They had moments against Florida last week where they were able to move the ball. But in between that has been the inconsistency of not only offensive line to perform. There have been injuries in the backfield. They haven't really been at full strength at running back. They do have Quintravian Wisner back, although I don't think they'll have CJ Baxter back for this contest. So they've mixed in some younger running backs. I think Sark really put it well, Toby, last week in the press conference when he said, we've been Rolodexing our running backs. Now, for OG guys like me and you, we get Rolodex. A lot of the younger folks might not know what Rolodexing is, but rotating a lot of guys. And it's been a little bit difficult for them to take root and establish that kind of rhythm with their offensive game. Folks would ask about Arch Manning. There's times when he's looked really, really good. Even in a loss at Florida last week, where he was pressured 35 of 42 snaps offensively and sacked 6 times. He stepped up and around traffic, made some big throws. He took a lot of punishment, but it was one thing Sark said. He said, I was impressed with how tough the guy is. He came in with an impossible amount of hype and expectation. They've done a pretty good job, I think, of blocking all that out. It's just about the execution. And to your point on the defensive side, they looked really, really good, against Ohio State and then the 3 non-conference opponents at home. But last week, gave up too much in terms of long drives for touchdowns, including the first drive of the ball game, first time they've done that this season, and gave up 7 out of 14 on third down conversion. So there were a lot of different things that mixed into this, which kind of brings about, to your point, a little bit of a mixed identity, I think.
Yeah. I miss the Rolodex, by the way. Something about the ability to flip it and see the name on there. But our youngsters, Google it up. It was a lot of fun. Arch is the easy punching bag. He's the big name. He's received a lot of criticism. In your mind, fair or unfair?
There are things about his development it's fair to point out, especially early on when he was missing some open targets and some things of that nature. And Sark said at the time he wanted him to just not worry so much about, to try to make an easy play more complex. Go ahead and take the easy read, take the easier throw if it's there. And I think he's done a better job of that over the last couple of weeks. Now, some of the other things, those who are probably criticizing him the most are probably, at least there's a cross section of them, who expected the most of him, for him to be the Heisman front runner going into the season, which I thought was a little bit far-fetched for a guy who'd only had 2 collegiate starts, and that was out of necessity last year when Quinn Ewers was hurt. He has a lot of development to go, and I think he'll continue to develop. I do believe that we've seen some progress from him over the last 2 weeks, but you know how that works, Toby. It'll get lost in the analysis of a defeat. And and he did throw 2 interceptions in the ball game, so he is still learning on that. But he also directed the offense better, I think, than I've seen him do up to this point. So he is making strides. The question is, how much improvement? And is it enough improvement in time when going up against this outstanding Oklahoma defense?
Got more questions for the play-by-play voice of the Texas Longhorns, Craig Way. But first, a quick message from our friends at Brahms.
Brahms Banana Fudge Sundae gives a whole new meaning to decadent taste. 2 creamy scoops of premium vanilla ice cream overflowing with delicious hot fudge and fresh slices of banana to create the perfect balance between the fruity banana flavor and rich hot fudge. Treat yourself to a banana fudge sundae at Brahms, where every spoonful is pure bliss.
All right, Craig, let's talk about the defense. You know, this shapes up, on paper at least, to be a battle of 2 really good defenses. We know about Anthony Hill, the All-American at linebacker. What are some of the other names on that side of the ball that'll be pivotal for Texas on Saturday?
Well, I think you're spot on, T-Row. You start with Ant Hill because he has been the anchor last year and this year of that defense there in terms of the front 7. They've also got good linebacking play out of Leonga Lafau and a youngster in Ty Anthony Smith. Secondary has been a veteran group paced by the senior safety, Michael Taft, had his first interception of the season last week. And something that kind of went under the radar in the aftermath of the loss to Florida, the absence of Malik Muhammad on the corner. Now, Malik was a preseason all-conference pick. He was a game-time scratch, couldn't go, and credit Florida for being able to go to that side, whether it was a youngster in Cade Phillips or Kobe Black on that corner. But they went to that corner a lot to a freshman, Dallas Wilson, the highly heralded receiver. He had a great debut, and so they were very effective in doing that. Having Muhammad back helps Texas. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a shutdown corner, but it would give opposing offenses a little more pause about throwing over there regularly as opposed to going to the other side to Jalen Gilbo, the other veteran corner.
What are your biggest concerns, or maybe the better phrasing is, what do you think Steve Sarkisian's better concerns are about Oklahoma specifically going into this football game?
Well, he's clearly pointed out on the defensive side what the Sooners have done, and how he said that certainly Brent Venables has been able to shape and mold this defense into his classic defensive units. Obviously, it took him a little time, and with all the injuries the Sooners had a year ago, to be able to transition this and to ramp it up. But he's done it. He's been extremely impressed with what Oklahoma does. And I think this is something that needs to be pointed out. There's guys on that Sooner defense, like an R. Mason Thomas or some other guys, who just have gotten better over time. You stay in a program long enough and you continue to work and grind, you're going to improve and get better. And I think that's as noteworthy as anything on the defensive side. On the offensive side, everybody's waiting to see. It's the old waiting for Godot thing about John Mateer. But Sark has said they got to prepare for him, certainly. And he apparently is a fast healer, so they're kind of expecting to see him on the field. They'll prepare, obviously, for Michael Hawkins as well. But they saw Hawkins last year, and they know what he's capable of. And they like the way that Sark is impressed with the way the Sooners can rotate the backs in and find the outside targets. So those things are all very, very important. You might say spot concerns for Sark and the coaching staff as they prepare for this matchup.
I want to ask you about the game in general. OU Texas, Texas OU on your side of the Red River. More than any other game, it feels like there are so many momentum switches in this game. It feels like it's an 8-hour-long football game every year, and that there are 17 different changes in momentum. What are your favorite things about this particular football game?
I think I probably fall into the category that you do and so many others. The spectacle of everything about it. This is when people ask folks on either side of the Red River what's special about this game. The answers are almost universal. The fact that it's the neutral site and as true a neutral site as you could possibly have, as we all know, with the stadium split, according to your constituency on the north end for Texas and the south end for OU, and how that view. When you see that the camera shot from the Goodyear blimp or something, and you see all the burnt orange on one side and all the crimson and cream on the other side, it's incredible. The fact that it happens at the State Fair of Texas, that you see the Texas Star, the big Ferris wheel. You see Big Tex up there since 1952 going, "Howdy, folks, welcome to the State Fair of Texas." And so, you know, all of those things. And then obviously the food. Corn dogs and turkey legs and all the exotic desserts and all of those things, all of that would make it special enough. And then you've got a football game that annually has ranked opponents, and sometimes, as we know, in the first decade of the 21st century, the winner of that game was probably going to win the Big 12 South and have a chance to play for a national championship. So the stakes are always high, and the atmosphere is like none other. So I think all of those things are the things that resonate with me.
Yeah, you've nailed it. I always look for first-year guys who are playing in their first ever Red River game, because I do feel like it takes a quarter and a half maybe for the head to stop spinning. You know, there's just so much going on. It's a pressure cooker. There's been so much hype leading into the game that it feels like it's really hard for guys that are playing in this game for the first time to settle down early on.
I agree.
Craig,
Yeah,
there's
I agree with
a whole lot of guys on both sides on offense, especially, who that applies to this year.
No question. And there's another thing that I look at is, and I know Oklahoma has some of these players. Texas always has a collection of guys who grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and for whom going back to their home area means a great deal. And it used to, there were players in this rivalry that lived like 2 miles away from the Cotton Bowl. Trevor Gooseby, the starting left tackle, played at Melissa, which is north of Dallas, but he grew up as a youngster, he said, within shouting distance of the fairground. So it means an awful lot to him. I'll tell you this, Toby. I think the best comp for all of this is something that a guy you know very, very well, my broadcast partner for years on football and still is on baseball, Keith Moreland, who was an All-American baseball player at Texas, but he played as a football player. He was a defensive back for Coach Royal in the early 70s. And he tells the story about standing in the tunnel and what it meant. And in those days, both teams got in the tunnel at the same time. I think both sides have wised up since then, so they bring them down separately. But Keith played 13 years in the big leagues. And Keith got to bat in the 1980 World Series when he was with the Philadelphia Phillies. He goes in as a pinch hitter in like the 7th or 8th inning, and he steps in, and he had to ask for time, and he stepped out for a moment, and the crowd was just going crazy at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And his thought, he says this to this day, his thought was, I have felt this kind of electricity before one other time. And it was standing in the tunnel before Texas OU, standing next to Roosevelt Leaks and Doug English and looking across and seeing Joe Washington or Greg Pruitt and feeling, he said, you couldn't feel your feet on the ground. And he said the only time he's had that feeling is at the plate in the World Series and standing in the tunnel for Texas OU.
That's a great analogy. Great story. Craig Way will be on the call Saturday for the Longhorn Radio Network. Craig, I look forward to seeing you in the press box, and thanks so much for a few minutes of your time today.
Race you to the corn dog stand.
All right, that's a deal. That's a deal. And thanks to you fine folks for watching once again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on Monday with a recap of OU Texas.